Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Dharmesh Sheth. I'm a reporter and a presenter at Sky Sports News. Welcome to the third Breaking Barriers webinar from the PGMOL. Now, I've watched the first two sessions, and what we've got in store for you today, I simply cannot wait. You will be loving it this afternoon. Now, the focus of this discussion, as you will know, will be around an inspirational sporting family from the British Asian community. More on those three guys in just a moment. But before we get going, here's Mike Riley, the MD of the PGMOL, with a few words to welcome you all.
Thanks, Dharmesh. And I'm really sorry to be not coming to you live this afternoon. International Week, unfortunately, has meant that I'm overseas, and the timing's made it just impossible for me to join you at the show live. But rest assured, as soon as I land, I'll be watching the webinar back, because I want to see how everything goes this evening. So, welcome everybody to the third in the Breaking Barriers season. The first two episodes have been really good, and I know that tonight's webinar will be equally top class. British Asian communities are underrepresented in every area of the game, including refereeing, and that just isn't right. We all need to do a lot more to address this ongoing issue, and the PGMOL is committed to making rapid progress in diversifying our profession. We want everyone to have the opportunity of walking out to officiate at Old Trafford or Anfield, knowing that they have the support of their colleagues and that all of us in PGMOL will do everything that we can to make that ambition a reality. And so to tonight, and a really big thank you to Jarnail, Singh and Bups for giving up their time to share their stories and experiences of refereeing with us. I've been really fortunate to have known Jarnail for a long time, and he's one of those people who really does live up to the description of him as a legend. A true pioneer and a brilliant referee. As for his sons, they're both making great progress, one with a whistle, one with a flag, and doing the profession and themselves proud. Jarnail, Singh and Bups are also part of PGMOL's Inclusiveness Advisory Group. The AAG's goal is to put equality, diversity and inclusion at the heart of everything that we do, to listen to our communities and make sure that step by step our people are reflective of all of our communities. Tonight's session is another good step forward, and I really hope that you learn from it, spread the word and join us again going forward. And to Dharmesh, thank you ever so much for getting involved this evening. We're really looking forward to listening and to learning from these super people, and I know that you'll get the very best out of them. And so, back to you.
Mike Riley there, the MD of the PGMOL. Thank you very much indeed. Right, you can see them on the screen now. Time to introduce our very, very special guests. First up, as Mike Riley described him, he's a legend. He's a pioneer. He's a role model. And he did not write that script. He is Mr. Jarnail Singh. Welcome along, Jarnail. Also on the panel are Jarnail's sons, the National League referee, Sonny Gill, and Bups Gill, the highest ranking British Asian official in the game. So before we get really up to speed with what you guys do, just give us a brief background into how you got and how you developed your career. Let's start off with you, Jarnail.
Well, I basically started, I was a manager of a local Punjabi, I would say, football team in Wolverhampton, and nobody ever wanted to run the line or help, so I always volunteered. And after one of the games, one of the referees approached me and he said, "You know what, you're not too bad. Would you be interested in taking a referee's course?" And Dharmesh, that's where it all started from, mate.
Fantastic. We'll find out a lot more of how your career developed throughout the next hour. Let's go to Sonny now. Sonny, just give us a brief background in how it all started for you.
I mean, I think me and Bups both did our course when we was 15, 16. Started running the line for a season instead of refereeing because we were still young. So I remember going out on a Sunday and a Saturday, just running the line. And then as of 17, 18, just started refereeing in the men's game straight away from there.
Great stuff. Finally, Bups.
I think I know Sonny just said 15, 16. I think we were 14 when we actually did the qualification, and then we actually stopped for a couple of years. But as soon as we got our qualification, we used to, or my dad used to referee these Asian tournaments in the summer, run by the Khalsa Football Federation. And that's where it all started. Obviously, my dad took us along once we'd obviously completed our course, and we'd used to run the line to my dad at that tournament. And that's how we first got into it. And you know, the likes of Andre Mariner were also refereeing at those same tournaments there with my dad as well. So that's where it all started for us, I think.
Terrific, guys. Let me start with you first of all, Jarnail. Now, I've spoken to you before, and for those who won't know you, you are a very modest man. And so when people describe you as a legend, as a role model and a pioneer, you kind of go a little bit red, but it is true. So just talk to us. I know you've just touched on it there about the first steps into the profession, but when you look back, what do you think the biggest challenge was for you when you were trying to get into it? Just 1 second. I think Jarnail is on mute there.
Sorry, I'm not very good with technology. I do apologize.
Yeah, that's all right. It's a story of the last year. Everyone's on mute at some point.
Could you just repeat the question, please, Dharmesh, again?
Yeah, look, I know you're a modest guy, Jarnail, and you reluctantly hear phrases like pioneer and role model and legend, but the facts of the matter are that you are a pioneer. I just wanted to know, just when you look back, when you started that career, what you foresee and what you thought was your biggest challenge when you look back now.
I'll be honest with you, there was no challenges when I first actually started to refereeing. I had no inclination of what I was going to do or what I was going to achieve. It was just to help my local Sunday morning team. I was also at university at that time, and it was just an extra form of income to support my university at Dharmesh. So originally when I first started, it was basically just I was doing it to help out the local team and a bit of pocket money.
We certainly did that, and look how far that's got you. Look, Sonny and Bubs, this is probably a question for you now, because what resonates with me when we particularly talk about Asians in football is "you can't be what you can't see" is a phrase that really resonates with me and a lot of people. But you've grown up in a household where you can see what you can be. So with that in mind, when you see your dad in the refereeing profession, what were your first steps? And was it always in your mind that you were going to get involved in the industry?
Yeah, go on. So obviously the first experiences were going to see my dad at live games, because, you know, those are the ones that we wanted to go to. Every time he had a fourth official on the Premiership, those are the games that me and Sonny jumped at and said, yeah, do you know what, we want to come with you. And I just remember my first experience going to Highbury when my dad was the fourth official for Arsenal v Everton, and just hearing the buzz around the stadium, you know, the cheering when everyone's, you know, when the teams come out, and my dad's coming out behind the teams with the match officials, him warming up at the start of a game. And it's just, you know, to see that and you think, oh my God, that's my dad there on the pitch. And, you know, that's something that I really, really want to do when I get older. That's probably how it all started from me. And that was obviously quite crucial in, you know, or that paved the way for me and probably Sonny to want to pursue that as a hobby to start off with.
Sonny, Bubs talks about when he saw his dad and thinking, this is what I want to do. With you, it was slightly different, wasn't it? Because you were one of those guys who actually wanted to be on the pitch playing, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, from a young age, I think we always knew we were going to be involved in football. Football was life at home, no matter what. Weekends, we'd watch every game. But yeah, I wanted to play, and don't get me wrong, we're all good at a young age, and I weren't too bad at school, to be fair. And I remember I had trials at QPR when I was about 10 or 11. Played for the borough, played for a few semi-professional clubs, but then at the age of 15, I realised I weren't that good.
And then when did you make that decision to think, right, refereeing is probably the way I want to go? Was it simply because you wanted to just remain involved in the sport?
Again, I mean, similar to what Bup said, watching my dad going, I mean, I remember going to that Arsenal-Everton game. It was the first one. I can't remember how old he would be, quite young. But just watching my dad on like highlights on the TV or, you know, watching his games when we were there, we knew the buzz. We knew the buzz because we were there. And I think refereeing was just in the blood. I'd say it was in the blood. It was going to happen at some point.
Jarnail, it's very interesting what your boys are saying there, because they were buzzing when they were watching you walk in to the stadium, walk near the pitch behind those teams. So in effect, they had their role model. You were their role model. They wanted to do what you did. But what I want to know is, when you were trying to get into the profession, who was the role model for Jarnail Singh?
You're mute again.
Sorry, you're mute again, Jarnail.
Sorry. To be honest with you, Dharmesh, I never had any role models. As I said to you, initially it was just a hobby and a bit of pocket money. But you know what? There came a point when I knew, you know what, I had the ability, and if I would just to concentrate more, get fitter, I did have the possibility of, you know, getting to the next step and the next step after that. So it was basically for the first 10 years I started refereeing, there was no thought of me going anywhere to what I achieved. It was just when I was refereeing on what we called the supply league, that 1 year where I did fairly well, and I thought, you know what, with a bit more dedication, a bit more effort, getting fitter, you know, maybe I might be able to go in a few more steps.
Well, were there any Premier League referees at the time that you were looking at and thinking, they're very, very good, and that's what I want to aspire to?
They were all good referees, to be honest. I mean, any referee, whether he's on the Premier League or the, you know, any level, is a good referee. But the one that sticks to mind was Peter Taylor. When I first started, obviously we had a link with him as well, because, you know, he was from Wolverhampton. He was a quality act. And then obviously there was Mr. Webb, who's a family friend as well. And you know what? He was a big role model, and he was always there if help was required. You know, he was at the other end of the phone, and he's been helpful with the kids as well. So, you know, whenever they wanted to chat or some advice, you know, Howard was the person to speak to.
Jana, what I am interested in as well is, given your early experiences when you started refereeing, when you look back and then you started to see that your sons wanted to get into it as well, was there ever any part of you that was almost discouraging them or dissuading them from going into the game? Or were you very, very happy for them to enter the game and you didn't see any issues with that?
Well, knowing both their characters, they're both strong-minded, and to be a referee, that's one of the characteristics that, you know, you have to be as a referee. You have to be strong out there, have a good personality, be a manager. And knowing them from the start, I mean, I knew they had all those traits, so they had a possibility of going further. I
just wonder that they're so proud of you, especially when they reminisce about that Arsenal-Everton game at Highbury when they're seeing you walking out there. I'm just wondering, how do you feel now when you see your two sons involved in refereeing now?
I probably am even more prouder than they were, because, you know, as a father, I mean, it's nice for children to carry on with what you're doing, but what they've achieved, you know, you can't put into words, to be honest with you, Dharmesh. It's my heart is so big, to be honest with you. I'm so proud of them, and hopefully that they can, keep going a bit further and realize their dreams.
That's terrific. Listen, just give us an insight in your household. This is for all three of you. Do you guys sit down after games, discuss things that went right, the mistakes you made, and can you help each other out in that way?
Okay. To be honest with you, after most games, if I'm on the road as well, I will call both of them just to see how things have gone. If there's any, they had any issues, and obviously I don't talk about it then because it's all fresh. I'll let them go home, have a think about it, reminisce, and then after they've had a good think about things, then we do discuss things about how they felt, what they did, could they have done better. So yeah, it's always a learning curve, isn't it?
You say learning curve, Sonny and Bubs. Do you see that as well? Is that part of your whole experience when you can sit down with somebody like your father who's been there and done it, and just to pick his brain about how he would handle certain situations and how you can bring that to bear when you're refereeing?
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking at your in terms of being in the household together. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why we're at the stage of where we are at now, because obviously when we all used to be in the same house and we would watch every football match that was live on TV, and we wouldn't be watching the match obviously unless it was our teams that were playing, but the main talking points were of the referees' decisions. And sometimes we'd have three opinions, sometimes we'd all agree, and I think that's a massive learning step in, once you've qualified to be a referee and the laws of the game, you can then obviously have those in-depth discussions about why Dad thought it was a penalty or why I thought it wasn't, or Sonny thought it was a red card and I think it's a yellow card. And you have all these discussions at home and you finally then come to an agreement, and I think that massively has helped us as young referees growing up, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why we are here. And obviously that's quite a lucky thing to have, having three people in one household to start off with, and get to where we are because of those experiences that we've had at home at an earlier age.
Sonny, you agree with that?
Yeah, but also on top of that, I think when we first started refereeing, obviously my dad was refereeing on the Football League, and obviously when you start refereeing grassroots football at level 7, level 6, we referee differently compared to what my dad was refereeing on the Football League, because expectation of the game is different at each level. So in early stages, up until probably level 3, I had a good network. And to be fair, I have to give credit to the local county, because I lived in Middlesex, and so we was always a part of the Middlesex Academy of Referees. And they brought us through from level 7 to level 4 to level 3. And to be fair, because we had a good network there, they taught us a lot. But to be fair, because of my dad, we also had the respect from the Middlesex County, because they knew what sort of stuff we were learning at home and the ability, what we wanted to achieve. And I think they helped us a lot. But soon as we hit National League and above, I started talking to my dad a lot more about the games, because the expectation and the understanding of how I wanted to referee was on the same level as his, if that makes sense.
That's such an important point you make, though, Sonny, because a lot of people will look at refereeing and they'll just look at the Premier League and they'll look at the EFL. But how important is it further down that pyramid to just build up your confidence, to build up your experience, that level at grassroots when you're trying to get into the industry and thinking, can I make it further up that pyramid? How important is that?
See, the thing is, watching Premier League referees, if you're a grassroots referee and you're watching Premier League referees, it's very difficult to imitate the way they referee, because the decisions they give and the expectation of the Premier League is totally on a different wavelength. So for all the grassroots referees out there at the moment, I'd say, because at grassroots level, you referee. If you're level 7, you'll referee on a Sunday, but then you'll also run the line to, say, level 4 referees. So if I was a level 7 or level 6, I'd encourage those referees, when they run the line to a level 4, who's a couple of levels or a level above them, pick his brains, learn a few things off that referee. So each week you go out with a referee, try and pick something up, learn something, and the ones you get along with and you think have similar styles, make that little network. Because I think that's really important when you're coming through the ladders. You need to have a good network and support, because sometimes you're coming home from a game. I can bet you now there's referees out there that think, why do I do this? But if you have a good network around you and can call people on the way home, they can put your mind at rest about certain decisions or certain attitudes that they received on the pitch or anything like that.
That's excellent. That's Sonny. Look, Sonny and Boops, this question's directed at you. We've talked about your father being the pioneer, the role model. But look, whether you guys like it or not, you are now role models to aspiring referees, especially those from a South Asian background. Is that something you embrace? Is it something that sits comfortably with you?
To be fair, we're in a position and we've worked hard to get in this position, and I can say that I'm the highest ranked Asian referee. Bups can say he's the highest ranked assistant referee in the country. So yes, we are role models to the South Asian community. I understand that. But to be fair, I think it's important that we get to a level where we can be a role model for every BAME background. It's not just about South Asians. You know, there's loads of BAME backgrounds, whether it's gender or it could be anything. But we want to reach the top of the game where we can make a real difference. And I think that's important. But if there are South Asians out there that want to join the game and do their referees course, I'm more than willing to help them in any way I can, if they think I can.
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, we was obviously, as I said, obviously we was quite lucky that we had a role model within our own household, and I think it's difficult for younger people from ethnic minority backgrounds, because you know they don't see role models as much, especially in the Premier League. You know, I mean, now you know they've started to show a lot more football league and championship football on TV. So, and I think that's going to be the biggest barrier that we need to get through, in terms of making sure that, you know, the referees and the assistant referees that we have at a professional level are used as role models to support the younger or even the, you know, as Sonny said, there's no age discrimination, or even older referees who still want to get into the game, and obviously want to, you know, be involved in football and referee. I mean, being a role model is a big thing, you know. It's just we've got to be out there as a support network for anyone who wants to be a referee or an assistant referee. But I think what's more important is that, you know, the referees at a younger, or even on media get respected a lot more, and I think that's the biggest thing that puts the younger generation off refereeing. You know, I was just thinking about it the other day, you know, where we saw I think it was the Bulgarian referee who got chased off the field of play. And I'm thinking, why do referees always get portrayed in the media for a negative reason? You know, and that's, you know, one of the main reasons why a younger child who's watching that, you know, how many young children watch Sky Sports News and they see that on the TV, they're going to be like, I don't want that. You know, why am I going to become a referee if I'm going to get chased off the field of play? You know, and I think, you know, the respect sometimes that the referees get, especially at the grassroots level, it massively needs to improve, you know. And you only need to look at how rugby referees get respected by players at a grassroots level and at a professional level as well. And that's the reason why they've got so many young referees filtering through their sport. You know, I think something massively needs to be done about, you know, the respect campaign for referees. And that's the only way that we can encourage anyone, let alone, you know, referees from a BAME background. We've got to, you know, encourage anyone who wants to become a referee at a young age.
Jarnail, just picking up on something that Bup said there, when he talks about the media representation of referees, and you see the pundits, and look, it happens on Sky, it happens on the BBC, it happens everywhere, when the referees and the officials are talked about, it's normally on a negative decision. Whereas if they've had a perfect game, they're not spoken about at all. It's not like a talking point that the referees had a brilliant game. It's just a given. Do you think, as Bups is suggesting there, that kind of rhetoric needs to change a little bit, and how can it?
Yeah, obviously, you know what, you have to show refereeing as a positive, not as a negative at the end of the day, to encourage new match officials and keep match officials who are already officiating. You know, we do need to have a look at the respect program and how it's being used at the moment. The media can help as well. I mean, obviously, you've got your jobs to do. You got, you know, the good guy, bad guy scenarios, and I think a more positive feedback regarding referees would possibly encourage more individuals to take up the whistle.
Maybe is a way forward. I know it's kind of being mooted at the moment. Maybe the referee's coming out after a game and having an interview to explain what's happened.
Yes, I mean, to be honest with you, it has been looked at the moment like rugby, but that's above my pay grade. So that's up to, you know, the PGMOL and the FA. And yes, it would be good, in my opinion as well, because then the referee could come out and say, you know, this is why I made that call, and explain it to the players and the public and the media.
But again, also, sorry, just on that, I don't think referees need to explain their decisions. Everyone's human. Sometimes we all do make mistakes. You know, footballers make mistakes. We don't slate footballers in the media to say, oh, why did you miss that open goal? Why did you miss that penalty? It happens. You know, it's football. It's a game. You know, people make mistakes. You shouldn't have to justify why sometimes we have made a mistake. But the reason it's so like big now is that every mistake that's been made now is highlighted in the media, on the newspapers, or wherever it may be, and that's just putting a lot more pressure on the match officials at the moment, in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, look, just developing on that, this is a question for all three of you. The downsides for you guys are potentially twofold. Number one, you're in the refereeing business, and with that, unfortunately, does come some negative reactions, some abuse, but also potentially and unfortunately, you could get abuse because of the color of your skin and the fact that you're from a South Asian background. Have you experienced abuse, and in particular racist abuse, and how did you deal with it? Just start with you first of all, Sunny.
I mean, I've never received any racial abuse, if I'm honest, in football. Being Asian, I think the difficult thing for me has probably been refereeing at a young age where there weren't many other Asian referees around. If I did make a mistake, the clubs would probably remember the mistake by me more than probably any other official. So if I went back to that same club, say 4 months later, they'll probably remember that mistake I made 4 months ago. And I think it's easier to remember because I'm Asian, if that makes sense. But regarding abuse, I've never really received any racial abuse as a referee, if I'm honest.
Bups?
To be fair, I've received it once, and again, it was at the lower levels. I was running the line, and somebody shouted out from behind me in the stands, go back to where you came from. And it was just one of those moments where I just thought, you know, my God, I turned around. I really obviously I shouldn't have, you know, because I should have been focusing obviously of what was going on the pitch. But hearing that, I was just obviously completely shocked, and I turned around, and just for that split second, I went, "Who said that?" And I just quickly just switched off again. I just turned back around. I'm gonna ignore this now. It did get to me, but at that time, obviously, I didn't know what I needed to do in terms of whether I had to report it or whatnot. And what what was really, really good, I came in at half time. I told the referee that this happened. And obviously they reported it to the club and any of the stewards that were possibly that were there. But yeah, it was quite sad, really. But obviously, it didn't put me off. My thing is that you get knocked down, but you got to pick yourself back up, and that's where you show your true character. But yeah, it was quite sad that it happened. I really didn't think it would happen, but it's only happened to me that once, and it hasn't happened. So that was my experience of it. Yeah.
And Jarnail, have you experienced it?
Yes, unfortunately, only once. It was coming through the system. It was at a county level game, to be honest with you. Got called the P word. And unfortunately, when I turned around, there was two players of the same team. Obviously, one of them had said it. So I just called both towards me. I said, listen, gentlemen, have you got the courage of your convictions to repeat it? And as I expected, no, they didn't. So that's the one I've really had racial abuse. And I think I managed it quite well, to be honest with you.
Gosh, can't even begin to imagine. Listen, guys, just on refereeing itself, there'll be lots of people on this event, young guys from all backgrounds who might be considering a career in refereeing. What would you say to particularly young British Asians who wanted to get into refereeing? Would you encourage them? Would you offer them words of encouragement? Jarnail, first of all.
Oh, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, if you know you're not going to make it within the game as a professional footballer or even at a decent level, you know what? First of all, you're putting something back into the game for the start. Yeah, there's a lack of, there's shortage of referees. So the more Asians we can get on board, the better. And you know what? These days now, there is a career path to follow. You can become a full-time employee. The rewards are there. It's just a matter of taking that first step, doing the course, taking the exam, and then off you go. I would encourage you 100%.
Sunny?
Thoughts exactly the same as my dad, but I just want to add on to that. He said something about there's a shortage of referees. There's a shortage of referees at grassroots level now where there's not enough referees coming through the system or doing their courses. So on a Sunday morning, there's probably teams out there that got to get a referee in between themselves and play the game. But I asked myself, why are we short of referees? And I think it's more the fact that we don't sell refereeing as we should. No one knows what referees go through midweek, before a game, after a game, how we train, who helps us, what the rewards are, financially how rewarding it can be if you make it as a professional referee. Once or twice I've seen it where obviously Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville did that documentary when they trained with the Premier League referees. That was a great insight for everyone about how hard it is and how fun it is. I think Howard Webb did one on the BBC regarding grassroots football and all the way up to the Premier League. That was a good documentary. I think the media, the PGMOL, the FA, I think we have to do more in the public eye to sell what we do. If people were aware of how we go about things, weekdays, match days, what we get involved in, I think it will encourage more referees to actually do the course.
Bubs, is that something that you can relate to?
Yeah, definitely. That's the point I was going to make. But both those points, really, I mean, the first step is obviously get in contact with your local county FA and get the course done. That's the first step before anything. Just do that, learn the laws of the game, and then you just take it from there. And obviously, there is a buzz as well, because when you start refereeing, you're not just going out to referee a football game. I mean, obviously you are, but if you want to make it up the ladder, you're in competition with every other referee in that same step as you, and you're also put in a league table, exactly like the football teams. Like, you're put in a league table as into where you finish at the end of the season, and you can finish up the top bracket area, you get promoted to the next level. And that's a sort of a buzz as well, because sometimes, a mid-season you get to find out at the lower levels what position you are in, and then that can encourage you and motivate you to then push on. And every game, is just it's just a buzz for you, because you've got to nail this game, and then you start to think about improving yourself, and then you get involved in academies. There's so much to it. There's so much support now as a referee that it's a no-brainer for me. And I just wish that I hadn't stopped refereeing and I carried it on from when I was 14, 15. There is so much support out there. I mean, when my dad was refereeing, I mean, you probably answer it better. There wasn't really that much of a support network. There weren't the academies. There weren't the training courses. So after this meeting, I've got a training course with all the championship assistant referees and the referees straight after this meeting. So there is, there is so much out there to help and support you. But Sonny makes probably the best point in what he said. So the first step is just go for it, and then there definitely needs to be a sell on what is so good about refereeing. Celebrate why we referee, celebrate how we referee. Not everything has to be negative about a referee. People need to see how we train before a match day, and also most importantly for your mental and your physical and social well-being as well. Going out there, you meet different people, you meet different referees, you connect with them, you then create a network. Physically, you've got to keep yourself physically fit, and I think that's probably the most important thing that's helped me and my brother get to where we are right now. In terms of mentally, it gets you out of the house. It's a no-brainer for me. And as Dad said, there's no financial reward for it at the end of it if you get there.
But some great points from the three of you there. Look, I'm very wary of the time, and we've got so many questions that have been sent in for this Breaking Barriers event that I want to put to you. So let's try and get through some of them at least. This one's from Andrew Bontiff. He says that less than 1 in 10, that's 9.4% of referees in England are from ethnically diverse backgrounds. What can be done to diversify the profession? Who would want to answer that, do you think?
I mind answering it.
Okay.
To be fair, he's right. There's not enough. But the good thing is there's a lot of work being done now behind the scenes by the PGMO and the FA, where groups are being created, mentor schemes are being created. But at the end of the bottom line is we need more role models. We need more role models from every ethnic background, whether it's sexuality, your color, gender, whatever it is. We need more role models going through the ranks. And the more role models we have, the more encouragement the younger generation will have to take up the whistle, because they will see people refereeing at the top level who are like them, who look similar to them. And at the end of the day, that will give them that confidence to start refereeing. But I think instead of breaking barriers, we need to smash the barriers, because at the end of the day, that's what I'll make a point here. Raheem Sterling last year spoke about not enough BAME background people in media or coaching or directors of football. 2-3 months later, every time I turn on Sky Sports News or watch Match of the Day, we got different backgrounds now presenting, whether it's females, different color, different, whatever it is. There's so much variety on TV now, hosting programs, and that's what you call smashing barriers. They've done it straight away, and I think referee needs that.
I think the PGMOL might be changing this event to smashing barriers off the back of that, Sonny. But just picking up on something you said then, you talked about it before, and in particular what Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville did when they were able to relate to what the referees were doing, when Howard Webb did that program as well. Is it maybe something that you'd like to see some of the high-profile players do in the Premier League to maybe promote the diversity in officiating?
I mean, at the moment, obviously, of course, because at the end of the day, none of us in the BAME background are refereeing on the Premier League or officiating on the Premier League at the moment. So the best people to do it are people like Raheem Sterling, Marcus Rashford, any of the other players, because they're on a platform which is worldwide and people follow them religiously. So at the end of the day, instead of talking about why aren't there enough managers from a BAME background or directors in football or coaches, I think people forget about referees. But I think that's also because people like Raheem Sterling, he probably doesn't think he's going to pick up a whistle after he stops playing. He's probably thinking about coaching and managing. So naturally, subconsciously, he's not going to have refereeing in his mind. But I think if they think about it, they probably would do it if they were asked to do it, of course.
It's a very good point. Listen, this is more of a light-hearted question. This one's come from Ralph Headley. He says, is there any family rivalry? And if so, how does father deal with it?
I'll let them answer.
Listen, there's always been a rivalry. I mean, but it's always been it's always from a good heart, isn't it? Obviously, I want my brother to do well, and I hope he wants me to do well as well. But it got to a point where Sonny started refereeing a year before me, and I thought, you know what, I want to do that as well. I want to get to where he is, or aspire to where he wants to get to, and I want a bit of that as well. And we obviously have that bit of banter where whoever runs the line to who, so I was the assistant to Sonny when he started refereeing. Then I took over him as a referee, and then he started running the line to me. We ran the line together on a game before. He's been my fourth official before, so he's made me a couple of cups of tea before. But yeah, it's all it's all light-hearted. But obviously, I want him to do well, and I'm sure he wants me to do well. But yeah, it's all good competition.
Is it all good competition, Sonny?
Oh yeah. I mean, to be fair, I remember I went from level 6 to level 4 in one season, and I think we was on holiday, and I got the email for my promotion when I was on holiday, and Bob said to me at the bar, he's like, "Oh, level 4, well, that was quick. I need to do this, man. I need to do this." And to be fair, it was nice. But then 2 years later, he's got his level 3. I'm still at level 4. And I'm thinking, there's something I'm not doing.
In all seriousness, though, is the ultimate dream potentially for the two of you maybe to be in the same game and maybe as high as the Premier League? Is that the aspiration?
At the moment, we can be on the same game on the Championship. It's a possibility, and to be fair, it can happen next week. It can happen. It can happen. But when it does happen, of course, can you imagine us two on the same Championship game? I wouldn't have thought that 2 years ago. No way, not this quick. But then who knows? In 5 years' time, I might say to you, "Yeah, we're going to be on the same Premiership game." That's just a dream, and it's possible. But it's up to us. It's up to us.
Would that be the dream, Bubs? Premier League?
Oh, you get butterflies thinking about it right now. But yeah, I'm so close. I'm not obviously. I am so close to it, but I don't really think about it. I just take the amount of time. I mean, I know obviously my next promotion is the Premier League, and I've just really got to just work my socks off and just take one game at a time, and hopefully, I get there as soon as possible, because we're not getting any younger.
Take it one game at a time. The PGMOL have really trained you very, very well, Bubs. Well done on that answer. This question's from Minesh Gupta. He says, during dark moments in your life, how did you find the strength to improve and battle with competition from colleagues? I guess that's for all three of you. Jarnail, did that apply to you?
Yeah, we've all been through those times, Dharmesh, to be honest with you. I mean, there was 1 year I finished on top of the referees list on the supply league system, and they took referees who finished 4th and 5th, and you know what, that put me down. But at the same time, I said, you know what, I'm not going to accept this. I'm going to go back the following year and finish top again, and which I did. But you know what? I learned a lot about my own character, and you know what? If you put your mind to it, anything's possible.
How about you, Sonny?
Yeah, I mean, it's always good competition between your colleagues. But again, I have a good network, and to be fair, we help each other. We do help each other, and at the end of the day, what you got to remember is, if, say, for example, there's 10 spaces for promotion, if you got a good network, those referees that are helping you and you're helping them, they're not going to stop you getting one of them 10 places. You all can get those 10 places. So it's not about me against him or me against him. There's plenty of spaces for everyone to get promoted. It's just about helping each other and doing. Only you can be the best you can be. But the difficult thing I probably found was, for 3 years at level 4, I was always finishing in the top 3 or 4 for observers assessment marks, but it was the club marks that were always letting me down. Again, that dropped my confidence quite a bit, and it took me probably 2-3 years longer than I think it should have taken me. But again, it's like my dad said, it's about you have to go back and just be better and just think of how you can turn the negatives into a positive.
Yeah, Bubs, just on that, I mean, when we think about footballers, when they're going through a lack of confidence, they've got a huge network around them. They've got their manager, they've got their fellow teammates who can help them out. You've really drummed into us today about the importance of a network. Is that what it boils down to when you're having those low moments?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I've made mistakes. I'm not going to lie. I've got a few offside decisions wrong, and sometimes that can affect you. That can affect you massively, and it does get to your head, because you know, after the game, you've had you get your report back, and you've got to check obviously all the decisions that you got right and wrong. And when you do get a wrong decision, it does play on your mind. It does get to your head, and it's just about you thinking about it and reflecting on it, and thinking, even speaking to your coach and thinking, you know what? Why did I make that mistake? How can I get better? How can I not make that mistake again? And again, as Sonny said, you talk to other assistant referees on the championship, and we do have small network groups that we work closely with. And we discuss it and we help each other out, because I can't do my job as an assistant referee without the help and support of the other assistant referee, because we communicate so much and help each other out during a game. And again, this is what people don't realize and don't see of how we communicate with each other and do help each other out. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the dark moments, you get them all the time. I still get nervous as soon as I get that email to say that my report's ready after a game, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, I hope I haven't got a decision wrong. But it is a really, really tight support network up there, especially, in the higher up you go as well. There's so many people there that want to help you. And, we don't have that competition where, we want somebody to make a mistake. It's really positive up there.
It's fascinating stuff. Listen, we've still got time for a few more. Now, just picking up what you said there, Bubs, about waiting for that report and criticism that you might get and people questioning your decisions. This is just related to a question from James Cantwell, because he asks, what have your friends thought of you being a referee, and has their view changed over time?
No, I mean, because they're your friends, aren't they? So they just know you for who you are, really. And they, obviously, your friends are quite. Well, I hope they are anyway. My friends obviously are quite proud of where I am, and hopefully where Sonny and my dad got to as well. But yeah, I mean, friends are there as a support network at the same time as well. Because sometimes you just want to switch off a game of football and phone your friends, and you just talk about. You just talk about the decisions and whatnot. But it was interesting because I'm a PE teacher, and I do get some of my students at some of the games that are near to my school, and they always obviously we have conversations about the teams that they follow in the local area in the championship, and it's good stuff. It's good banter.
Just preempted the next question actually, because this has come from Pavan Mahindru. And this one is specifically to Bubs. He's called you Bhupinder, so it's very, very formal here. Hi, Bhupinder. But we'll extend it out to Sonny as well here. And he says, look, hi, Bhupinder. I was a student when you taught at Cranford Community College a few years back. How was your experience of working in schools helped you further yourself as a referee? What skills have you taken from teaching to refereeing? So that's part one for you, Bubs, but also with you, Sonny, because I know you're a prison officer. So are any of those skills that you've got in your job transferable to refereeing? Let's start with Bubs first of all.
That's a good question, but I think massively it's helped. Obviously, when you're in school, you're always dealing with different characters and personalities. And it's quite clear that obviously on a football pitch, you've got loads of different personalities and characters there as well. So I think what was really, really important was to realize and understand the people that you want to get on side and work with. So if you had somebody there, who was quite temperamental and whatnot, you might want to obviously just crack a joke with them, and that puts them on side. Or simple things like knowing what their first name was on the field of play, and then you can obviously then have that level of respect with them and have that conversation with them on the field of play. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of different characters, and it's just about understanding and knowing who they are, and then how you manage them at the same time as well. That was really, really important. So it's quite similar to how you deal with kids at school, and everyone's got different personalities, different temperaments, and how you speak to them and how you treat them on a daily basis reflects on the actual job itself as well. So very, very important.
And Sonny, as a prison officer, can you take any of those skills into the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of it, look, I've got to be careful what I say, but detainees at a prison are doing time for a crime. Now, every day is a challenge, obviously where I work, because they want stuff done their way, or they need stuff that they want, which they can't have. There's frustrations. They can get angry. Moods change quickly. And at the end of the day, it's same on a football pitch. You can have a penalty decision in the first 10 seconds, and that's it. You're gonna have opinions. You're gonna have frustrations. You're gonna have anger. But you have to just learn how to manage people. If someone is frustrated about a decision, quickly you got to think fast what you're going to say to him to calm him back down, get him on your side. It's the same as prison, and it's the same on a pitch, and I think it's helped me massively in the way I manage a game of football.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. This one's for you, Jarnail. It's come from Polo Singh. He says, do you think that parents' views on football held a lot of Asians back in the 80s and the 90s?
Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, Dharmesh, our parents came to this country with £2 in their pockets, and their first priority was, to tell their children, you got two options. One option is you get yourself an education. The second option was, you have your own business at the end of the day. And obviously, when we first came here, football was just a bonus. It was a family get together with friends. There was no incentive to go any further. So yeah, I mean, as I said, when we first came here, our objectives was to set up our families. When my dad came here, he came on his own, was here for 2 years, worked hard, saved money. Then me and my mum and my sister flew over, and the temperament those days is completely different to what it is now. As parents and my son's generations, we know there is a career path within refereeing and sport. So if the child has got the ability, then it is up to us as parents to do as much as we can to help them at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate a little bit, because when I was growing up, it was almost seen to be a hobby rather than a job, football in particular. Now, do you think the further along we go in the next 10, 20 years, the next 2-3 generations, that's going to change completely?
It's changing. It's changing already, Dharmesh, to be honest. As I said to you, I mean, when we first came here and we went to play football, our parents never came along. They were too busy working. Mum was too busy doing the cooking and the housework. Dad was too busy working. Now, when our children, when they were playing football, you used to go along and support them. Now it's the same with the kids now. When their kids are playing, they will go out with them, take them off and drop them off. And it really is important for now the generations to come to give all the support we can to our children to achieve their goals, and see how far they can progress.
Fantastic. One more question I think we've got time for. This one's come from Andrew Brown. He says, I've recently started refereeing at the age of 42. Any advice for promotion for someone who entered refereeing late, who wants to progress as quickly as possible and who is fit and eager?
Is that for me or for one of the kids?
I don't think they're 42 yet. I'm going to hazard a guess. So let's go with you, Jarnail.
They're not far off. Listen, at the end of the day, you know what? If you've got an ambition, you want to achieve the best you can, there's nothing to stop you. You know, the powers of big cannot discriminate against age, but what they can do, they can support you to reach the highest level you can. So if you're 42 and you want to progress, it's all down to you. At the end of the day, you apply for the promotion, and then you take it from there.
Okay, I'm very conscious of the time now. So final question, and I just want you to all be very, very brief. So just about 15 seconds each. If you could offer one piece of advice, and one piece of advice only, for any aspiring referees who are on this call right now, whatever background they are, what would it be? Jarnail.
If that's what you want to do, pick that phone up, make the phone call, get in contact with your local referees association, and you will get all the support from that referees association and your county. If not, you can get my phone number, give me a call, and I'll give you all the help I can.
Brilliant. You might regret saying that, Sonny.
No, I won't.
I'll probably say there's going to be times when you're refereeing at an early stage where you're probably going to want to quit. I'd say don't quit. Have a good network. Keep pushing yourself, because eventually it's rewarding and it'll probably be the best decision you make.
Brilliant. And books very quickly.
Obviously very similar to what they've just said, but you know, we've got a good Twitter and Instagram network that we've just started, and that is going to really promote and encourage anyone aspiring to be referees. And that's the idea of the Instagram and the Twitter feed that we've got currently at the moment. It's just gone live. We've got the blue tick on Twitter and waiting for it on Instagram, but following that page will give you every bit of information that you need, whether it's knowing where your local county FA is, who to get in contact with, what referees do, you know, different jobs, different ages that are currently in the field now, and you know what level they're currently refereeing at, all the fitness regimes, everything that you need to know about refereeing, and to encourage and inspire those to be referees. Please follow that page. It's FA_PGMOL.
Fantastic way to finish. Listen, we could have gone on for another hour. You should see how many questions have come in, and we couldn't get through them all. But thanks for everyone who did send those questions in. And obviously a big, big thank you to Jarnail Singh, Sonny Gill, and Bhups Gill for their excellent advice and contributions on this Breaking Barriers event. And Breaking Barriers does return next month. We have another awesome session for you then. So look out for details on that. And I think Bhups has just been reading my script here as well, because also keep an eye out for today's clip from today's session on social media. You can follow the PGMOL on Twitter and on Instagram. Just search for @FA_PGMOL, just as Bhups said just there. And please do share the words of wisdom to amplify the advice and messages from today. Thank you so much again for everyone who's booked in for this event. And of course, once more to Jarnail, Sonny and Bhups, let's keep working together to continue to diversify this beautiful industry we're involved in. Thank you.